What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing the June reading wrap up for this year of 2026. If that sounds like something you guys may enjoy, definitely stick around for the video. It's reading time here at JBay's Corner. For those of you that are new, welcome to this little corner of the internet. My name is Jaya and I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on primarily bookish related content. I have a slight fiction addiction and I love to read, and I thought it would be such a fun way to talk all things books here on YouTube and see what like-minded people who love to read think about these wonderful books as well, which is how this channel started. And then I realized there's a lot of crazy things that happen in life that are also fun to film. Weddings, travel, trips, things like that. So sometimes we get little smatterings and randomness of those events in these videos as well. But if that sounds like something you may enjoy, definitely consider being a part of our community. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. It means the absolute world to me. I cherish each and every one of you. It means the world to me to be creating this community with you guys of like-minded people who love books so much, because books are wonderful. They allow us to experience so many different new ways of thinking and life, and just gives every person something new when they don't even know they're expecting it or looking for it. And I just love being able to share my thoughts on these books with you guys and also hear all of your thoughts. And for my OGs, I cannot thank you enough for all your love and support. That being said, let's jump into this video and talk about all the books that were read in the month of June. I will say that as far as reading goes, this month was a little bit slower than some of the other months. And in this review, I also have a series that I did end up finishing through the month of June, and I actually did a series review video. So I'll link that here as well without getting into too much detail with that one. But let's start with one of my personal favorite authors, Liz Tomforde. She's the one who wrote the Windy City series, which has 5 books basically focused on romance around sports. And in this book, we have, of course, another athlete who is absolutely amazing at what he does. And the love interest is the daughter of the coach. We have a single dad trope in this book as well. We have a primary female character who's kind of been a nomad her whole life, has a little bit of difficulty feeling like she's worth it and worthwhile because she was adopted by her dad, and she just feels like he's given up so much in his life to raise him as a single father, and she feels like she has to continuously perform and give back to him in order to feel loved and accepted. And she's also striving to be the best, but in the process of doing this, she's also found herself consistently achieving and moving and living a nomadic life where she's not really connected to any individual person or a place that feels like home. She loves her father dearly and she loves the time that she gets with him, but at the same time, she's so focused on making him proud and chasing this fame that he doesn't always realize that her father will love her no matter what. And simultaneously, we have Kai. Kai is the starting pitcher for the Chicago MLB team, and he's absolutely wonderful at the sport, but because of a one-night stand, he ended up with a son that he was not anticipating, and now he's dedicated himself into being the best father. He never lets go or lays loose. He had a rough childhood growing up, and he almost became like a second father to his younger brother. So he's always kind of shouldered that responsibility, and she kind of brings out his fun side, his wild side, and he kind of helps her feel grounded and at home. Their love story is adorable to read. The found family in this was so cute, and just the vibe of the story was great. I love how both characters are exactly what the other person needs. I love the banter, I love the character development, and I just think that Liz Tomforde's Windy City series is popular for a reason. Every single one of the books that I've read, whether it was Caught Up or Right Move or Mile High, has been absolutely excellent, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing with the series. This one ended up being a solid 4-star read for me. The next set of books I'm not going to go into too much detail with, only because I did do the series review for this, but this is the Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. For anyone who loves Fast and Furious and they like that idea of people who may be coming from small towns and people that have maybe a certain reputation that may follow them are more than what they seem, and if you like the idea of shadow movements and people from, small towns frying bigger fish and making a difference in the world, this is a great series for you. It's also a very much a romance series. In the first book, we have a love triangle, and then in the second and third book, we have a singular relationship that we're following. It is kind of toxic relationship vibes. You do get a little bit of like Magnolia Parks kind of vibes in this, or like maybe a little bit of just that relationship where you're really rooting for the people, but you just see them making mistake after mistake after mistake. In this series, we are following our main character named Cecilia. She is essentially the daughter of Ramon Horner, who is a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and one of his primary focus locations is in Triple Falls. She has been estranged from her father for quite some time. He was never really present in her life growing up, and her mom has been her singular support, her companion, her caregiver, if you will. But her mother also harbors some secrets, as do her father, that she is not privy to. And now she's finding herself in her position where, similar to like if you like Gilmore Girls, for example, Rory and Lorelai's relationship, she essentially finds herself oftentimes in a role of playing parent to her mother. And her mother most recently had a little bit of a mental breakdown. She just got into a good, stable relationship, and she's kind of getting her legs under her feet. And Cecilia's father basically bargains with Cecilia to say, hey, you come live with me at 18, work at the company, learn about the inner workings of how I built this ground up. And when you do that, and when you learn about it, I will sign over my shares to you, my money will come to you, and I will pay for your college, and you can take care of your mom if you work this contracted amount of time at the factory. And so that's why she finds herself in Triple Falls. She doesn't really love her dad. She kind of grew up in a very very lower middle class to middle class kind of lifestyle. She's not really someone who's super into rich things or labels or anything like that. And then she finds herself inadvertently caught between two men, Sean and Dominic. And they happen to be brothers within the Ravenhood. And as the books continue, we learn what the Ravenhood actually is, and how even higher up, there's even more characters that are playing a role in finding revenge for people that may have been hurt or injured by people like her father, who own businesses and don't necessarily have the best business practices. And they're also doing everything in their power to give back to their community. So think like Robin Hood vibes, if you will. Great series, lots of fun to read. The love story is also very sweet to read, very damaged, very beautiful. In the first book, Flock, we are actually getting fully a story told from the perspective of a flashback. She kind of gives the premises, she being Kate Stewart, basically lays the foundations of how the story starts, how Cecilia gets pulled into this world. Exodus, the second book, has a little bit of a flashback for the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book picks up in the future. It was very well written. It was enjoyable to read. The banter between our main character and her primary love interest in this is great. The back and forth is very interesting, and again, very toxic relationship, but fun to read. And then the finish line is finally when our main male character realizes what he's lost by sending his love interest away, and so now he's chasing after Cecilia and making up for the wrongs in his life. We also get his full story as to how he started the Ravenhood, how it became the Brotherhood, and how they were able to accomplish all the things that they've been able to accomplish in terms of the political game changers that they have completed. Very well done series, love it a lot. Put in a lot more detail in the series review if you're interested, and I'll definitely attach that video at the end of this. But great series, a solid 4-star read for me. Would recommend. We have Cult Classic up next. This is by Sloane Crosley. This book was actually gifted to me by one of my best friends. She said it just sounded like an interesting premise and something I may enjoy. And she was right. In this book, our main character is a woman who is recently engaged, has a wonderful life with her fiance, but is consistently questioning how deep that relation truly is, and has she given up anything in being connected with this relationship. The book starts with her, The book starts with her going out with her coworkers for a lovely dinner, and when she walks out of the restaurant, she happens to run into an ex, and she's forced to relive the experience of her relationship with that ex when she runs into him, and rethinks what kind of moments about that relationship really spoke to her and what things didn't. The next night, she goes out for dinner again with similar coworkers, and she finds that she once again runs into an ex. And now she's starting to question, as this happens repeatedly over and over again, what's going on. She later finds out that what is actually happening is that a group of people have been focused on her and meditating on her love story. And by doing this, they are channeling energy to bring her and all of her past lovers together in order for her to truly once and for all decide if the relationship she's in now, the one that she's decided where she's finally going to settle down and get married, is actually the correct relationship for her. It's a little bit of sci-fi. It's a little bit of like romance fiction. It's a little Groundhog Day-y. There's a lot of little components of various storylines and plots that I felt like got pulled into this book to create it. I also kind of love the fact that our main character is flawed and she owns her flaws. She very openly says, like, I shouldn't be disloyal. I shouldn't have questions in my mind. I myself am a hot mess. I'm not a perfect specimen or human. But she questions things like, why have we never fought? Why have we not had any serious discussions? And as the book progresses and she and her fiance are finally forced to meet face to face and have a discussion about all of her experiences and everything in the culmination of the book, they really address maybe some things that were being brushed under the rug in terms of the relationship as they try to figure out what the future holds for them. It's a very interesting book. It's very well written. It's very thought-provoking. It is a little bit on the slower side though. The writing is beautifully done, but it is that type of book where you need to be awake and focused when you're reading it. But it is satirical, it's fun, it's enjoyable. And yeah, I would say it's a great summer read if that's something you're interested in or looking for. And I ended up giving this book a solid 3.5 stars. The next book that I have here is actually one of those where I was actually slightly disappointed with what I found. And it was heartbreaking because this is one of my all-time favorite authors, and that was Sarah Dessen's Change of Plans. I love the fact that after so many years of not writing, almost a decade of not writing, Sarah Dessen finally put out a book for this summer. I do think that no one tells a story about young adulthood or coming of age in the same way that Sarah Dessen does. I love the fact that all of her female characters learn something and go on a journey separate to their love interests in the book. I love the fact that they flower and blossom on their own, and I love the fact that most of the characters are so well written. At some point, I may actually do a video dedicated to just Sarah Dessen books because I truly feel like, as far as like teen books go, books that can kind of work for a younger age group but also for an adult group and really speaks to coming of age, Sarah Dessen just has that market nailed. And there are so many books that she's written that are solid 5-star reads for me. So I just want to preface that before I even start talking about Change of Plans. For me, Change of Plans landed flat. And I think the reason why it landed flat is I feel like Sarah has been a little uninspired, which she has openly been talking about on the internet and things like that. She's had many of her book adaptations turned into movies. And so I think this was like the first time where she felt inspired enough to tell a new story. And I do love where she was trying to go with this book. In the premises of the book, we have a young girl who's in a relationship with her boyfriend that she's been with for 4 years through high school. And they just graduated and they're about to go off to college. Her father and her stepmother are wonderful parents, and they are professors or teachers in their own right. They also have twin babies that they're taking care of, as well as an infant. And she just finds that their life has been chaotic, but they've always been there for her. And she's loves her boyfriend and her boyfriend's family because of the sense of calm and discipline and direction that him and his family have offered her, as well as the way they openly invited her into their space. But the problem is, by consistently living her life based on his schedule, as well as trying to figure out where her role 100% is within her own family, she is in a precipice of life where she has rejected a college that accepted her, even though it's her dream school, in order to go for the safety net. She is ready to march on in her life, but doesn't really know who her real friends are or who she is as a person. And she's always been a little bit estranged from her birth mother, who is a corporate tycoon, and she doesn't know much about her mom's side of the family. And whenever they do get to spend time together, it's very formal sometimes and forced. And so there's a lack of mother-daughter connection that we may see in some other relationships between children. It's not to say that the mother is negligent, rude, cruel, anything of those sort of things. It's just that there's no closeness. So in the course of this book, she is finding herself in a position where she is going to be spending a few weeks in the summer with her mother, and her boyfriend, after he has graduated from college, inadvertently breaks up with her via text without any clear explanation, and she kind of finds herself adrift and floating. In the midst of all of this, her mother and her were supposed to go to New York to celebrate graduation, but because of some sudden things that happened within her family, her mom actually brings her to a small town where she is forced to meet her aunt and her cousins, whom she has not seen / potentially even knows of for the past 16 years of her life. So that's just to lay the ground base of this book. Now, throughout the course of this, you can imagine there are so many opportunities and ways in which our main character can grow, so many different ways in which this small town can like re-inspire her and force her to think of a new way of living life. And usually that's what happens in a Sarah Dessen book. I just felt like in this book, I really struggled with our main character's journey because I felt like there was a lot that was left unresolved. I also think there was a lot of things that happened that were a little too convenient. I also think certain relationships could have been explored more. For example, one of her friends is going through a difficult time with her own mother and has been sleeping on her mom and her sister's lake house's couch for days now because of avoidant personality and just trying to keep herself safe while continuing to work and keep her head above ground. And we don't get too much of that. We also get to see her create relationships and friendships with all of the characters that are important in the small town. But in the process of doing so, we don't get too much flesh out of the characters, which was really frustrating for me because that's something that Sarah Dessen usually does so well. And I think the other thing that kind of frustrated me a little bit with this book is the fact that she doesn't get the typical resolution that Sarah Dessen usually provides between our main female character and their ex. I also didn't love the love interest in this book that does end up being there in the small town because he puts a lot on our main female character and she feels this consistent need to apologize when I also feel like some of the things that lead to their conflict is not her fault. Basically, at the beginning of the summer, she ends up in a position where she doesn't have a phone. And so she's been disconnected. And suddenly she has a cell phone, which she herself doesn't even know she wants because she's been enjoying just living life and living in the moment. And the moment she's reconnected to the phone, she gets a flood of text messages and phone calls and messages from her family and loved ones back home, including her ex-boyfriend's parents and his friends just being like, hey, he's kind of gone off the rails. Is he okay? Type of thing. And the main love interest in this book doesn't exactly give her time to process everything that's going on. And in the name of giving her space and assuming that she's going to go back to her ex, almost acts like a douche in his own right to her. So these were all small things that just really bothered me. Usually I find the character development in this book to be much more wholesome. So I think this one just laid a little bit flat. There were a lot of loopholes that I think weren't quite answered. We also find out that the mom is very sick through the process of the book, and that was not really resolved. We also learn a lot about the family history and the property that is being sold, which is what brought our main character and her mother back to this small town in the first place without much resolution. So while it absolutely pains me to say this because I love Sarah Dessen, and while I will say that if this was the first Sarah Dessen book you ever picked up, it is going to be wonderful. It is going to be amazing. Because I have been spoiled by the amazing writing that is Sarah Dessen, and because I found her in my teens, which is a time when I really needed her writing, this one unfortunately was a 2-star read for me. I also recently discovered the author Meghan Quinn, and I absolutely fell in love with her, and so now I find myself reaching for her books on a regular basis. Till Summer Do Us Part and Rules for the Summer were the two that I managed to pick up this June, and they were absolutely incredible. I was also able to get my hands on the special edition copies from Amazon, and they're just both so gorgeous and stunning. And they are both standalone novels where the characters do not overlap in any way, shape, or form. So great books to pick up for the summer. Till Summer Do Us Part is absolutely adorable. In this book, we have our main character who is a young woman, Scotty, who has recently gone through a divorce and is working at a company where she's surrounded by bro boys and a woman who is an amazing CEO. And the one thing that's common in the entire office is that everyone is married, and our main female CEO, our CEO, who is a female, is also married to a marriage coach. And so Scotty finds herself in a position where she just wants to fit in to the office, and she's sick of all the Brads, the Chads. And in the process of trying to fit in, she inadvertently lies and says that she is in fact married and in a relationship. Insert her best friend's brother, Wilder, who is a self-made man very, very well off, but likes to keep a low profile and is consistently looking for the new, freshest, funnest thing to do. So she basically needs a fake date in order to see her boss's husband, who is a marriage counselor or a therapist, and Wilder, who's been in the world of improv for quite some time and is always excited by something new and a challenge, accepts on behalf of his brother's request to accompany Scotty to this marriage counselor in order to basically be her fake husband and act as such a terrible couple that they are deemed irreparable. Of course, Wilder is a wild card, so when Scotty and Wilder actually show up to the appointment, they end up making it seem like the relationship is very real, and Wilder just goes crazy with the story, which makes Scotty completely go berserk and get caught off guard, and they are invited to a couples retreat to which the rest of the office will also be going. So now Scotty and Wilder find themselves in a situation where they're going to be going to a summer camp together, pretending to be the perfect married couple. They end up being put in the sex cabin while they're there. They have all kinds of crazy encounters and situations that they're forced into. They also have private therapy sessions with the husband of the CEO as well. And then in the course of all of this, there's also funny, like ridiculous plays that happen, competitions that are going on, and they just like to prove that they are the best couple ever. However, by going through these therapy sessions and by being forced into consistent situations where Scotty has to deal with her feelings, she starts to realize that there's a lot that hasn't been unpacked from her previous marriage. And this is actually an opportunity for her to work through that and for her to gain her confidence. And Wilder, who never knew Scotty was married in the first place or on the fallout after a divorce, starts to realize there's more to her than he may have originally realized. And the two of them slowly start to fall in love with one another. Also, we find out that Wilder has actually done a lot to hold his own family together, and there's a lot of trauma in his own family and his own past that prevents him from forming meaningful relationships with women in his life. And so I think the best part about this book is not just the banter, the funniness, the spice, all that kind of stuff, which is still great, and Meghan Quinn did a phenomenal job with it. But it was also really beautiful to see these two characters heal from traumas that are very deep set by being in this fun little setting and by both of them treating each other with the respect that they would want from an ideal partner, and also realizing the changes they need to make in their own personal life in order to make their relationship work. Overall, beautiful story, so much fun to read, loved all the supporting characters, loved Wilder, loved Scotty, loved the crazy situations they found themselves in. Loved this book. This was a solid 5-star read for me. I'm obsessed. Rules for the Summer kind of follows the same vibes as Till Summer Do Us Part, in the sense that we do have fake fiance, fake marriage trope that's basically happening. In this book, we have Theo and his best friend, Reginald. Why am I blanking on his name? What is the best friend's name? It is going to bother me so much. So much. So much. Anyways, Theo is a main character who is British by nature. He's the son of a lord or a duke or something like that, has a lifestyle that has been chosen for him, a dukedom that's going to be passed on to him, and comes from a family full of entitled pricks, essentially. And the only person he truly loves in his family is his sister. His best friend, who I want to say is Reginald, and I'm thinking that's not his actual name, is an absolute treat. Robert. Is the best friend's name Robert? It's an R name, guys. It's an R name. That's what I do know for sure. Rupert. There we go. I was like, it'll come to me eventually. Rupert and Theo basically find themselves in a predicament because Rupert, who is Theo's best friend and is also known to convince Theo to do things on the name of a dare, convinces Theo to basically sign up for a website where he's looking for a fiance. Now, the problem is with Theo being as famous as he is because of his parentage, the site that Rupert created is inadvertently discovered by Theo's father, who's absolutely livid and threatens Theo to cut him out of the will when Theo says, no, I actually am looking for a wife, instead of accepting that it was a drunken mistake or saying that it was a joke that was made on his behalf. And because of that, Theo now finds himself in a predicament where he will have to marry the woman that his father has chosen, who is absolutely awful, into a family that he feels has poor moral scruples and things like that, or he can actually make this fake fiance thing work, and he has a month to do it. So Theo then decides that he's going to dig his heels in and double down and actually go through with the fake fiance profile. He and Rupert then scour through this website and end up discovering Renly's profile, who is our lovely American girl who is well-rounded, hardworking, and just wants her sweet shop that she just got tasked by her community to get started and going to succeed. Her father and her aunt, who are her primary caregivers, her father no longer in the picture, and her aunt, the quirky family relative that she has left, have terrible standing in the society. They are seen as a joke. They are seen as people who never follow through. And poor Renly has that following her as well. While she absolutely adores her aunt and she fully appreciates the fact that her aunt took her in, she's kind of had to been a parent to Kitty her entire life. And Kitty kind of expects her to pay the bills, work all the odd jobs in order to maintain their lifestyle, while she decides to continue to do essentially like fake horsing around, if you will, like derby style horse activities with like the horse heads on a stick. And she tends to get Renly and herself into trouble by signing up for things without fully understanding what they're doing. So this is relevant because Kitty tells Renly when they first applied for the project to get the local business and a chance to start it that they have $20,000. When in reality, what's actually happened is Kitty said they would need $20,000, not that they actually have it, although Renly has been led to understand something else completely. So when they find themselves in a situation where they need a bank or a backer in order to succeed financially with their enterprise, Kitty, the aunt, ends up creating a website for Renly on the fiancé website, thinking it's a financier website. So Theo ends up showing up at Renly's door, ready to get like on board with proposing and married to this wonderful woman, when she was just looking for financial backing. Inadvertently, they end up in a deal where Theo agrees to financially back Renly in exchange for spending time with her and learning tangible skills that he might be able to use in the real world. And Renly in turn decides that she would work with Theo as long as there's rules on board. Hence the title, Rules for the Summer. Throughout the course of the book, there is a list of rules that are consistently edited and created by these two characters. It is very sweet to watch their love story unfold. It is really sweet to see Theo go from basically an adorable goofball that has no redeemable skills to actually learning new things and getting his hands dirty with construction and things like that. And we see Renly slowly lower her guard and realize that it's okay to rely on people, and that there are sometimes people in your corner, even though she's been disappointed her whole life and she works her butt off to get this little candy shop off the ground. Their love story is very compelling and very sweet. And at the end, Theo does eventually have to face his parents, and Renly does eventually have her store contention with the town, as well as the big blowout situation with Kitty. It's also very cute to see Theo and Rupert's storyline as well, because Rupert just wants to spend as much time as possible with his best friend, but doesn't quite know how to show it or say it. And so he's also brainwashed by Kitty into thinking that maybe Theo never puts him first. Overall, very fun, cute story to read, perfect for the summer, fun little romance, characters that really have good banter and spark, but also depth to their characters. You really see them grow throughout this book. And I think overall, this was a very fun read. It was a solid 4-star read for me. There is another series also that I would want to do a video on eventually, and that is Magnolia Parks. I have not actually done that video yet because there are supposed to be 7 books in the Daisy Hates universe, and these 2 series are supposed to go together. And unfortunately, the rest of the books in the series have not been released. Although with recent news and what's going on the bookish internet, it sounds like Jessa Hastings may not be coming around to writing the rest of the series for quite some time. So that being said, I may delve into a full series review, but the reason why that is pertinent to what we're talking about next is because Jessa Hastings did release a book called The Conditions of Will, which follows the story of Georgia Carter, who was introduced in the Magnolia Parks series, but this is a completely standalone series from that entire set of books and universe. And in this book, we are following the story of our main character, Georgia, who is essentially studying the ability to read micro expressions and micro movements in humans to understand their true feelings, and to get past any lies or things like that. Kind of think like human lie detector, if you will. And she is getting a master's in this with hopes of pursuing a PhD. And the reason this all started is because of her estranged relationship with her family. The whole reason why Georgia Carter was in London, which is where Magnolia Parks is set, is because her family has basically ostracized her and pushed her out of her own home. She has a terrible relationship with her mother as well as with her older sister, and does not have the greatest relationship with her father as well. The only person in her family that she's truly, truly close to is her younger brother, Oliver, who was ostracized his entire life within his town as well as his family because he is queer, or gay in this case. And because of that, he has always been treated poorly. And eventually, in the process of trying to deal with his emotions, he does end up into a substance abuse problem and is a recent recovered alcoholic. Georgia and Oliver have a very difficult relationship, but Georgia feels the need to consistently support Oliver. She has given him multitudes of money. She has done everything in her power to make sure that he's safe and loved. But essentially, the two of them are against the rest of the family. Theodore, the eldest brother in this book, unfortunately is very clueless as to what's going on, but he's kind of been celebrated as the golden child. Marianne, the middle sister, who is the older sister of both of the other characters, Oliver as well as Georgia, is a complete and total mess. And Georgia and Oliver inadvertently have their own differences and issues, because as it is, when you truly love someone and they are going through the throes of addiction and things like that, they can say things in the heat of moment without realizing what they're saying, and it can cause difficulties and strains in the relationship. And Georgia finds herself in a consistent position where she feels like she's never supported by anyone else, and she has to consistently care for Oliver's feelings and support him to the best of her ability, while still striving to make a name for herself and heal herself from her childhood trauma. She's been through extensive therapy and all these other things. And the reason this preface was given is because the premises of this book is basically that Georgia is living her happy life in London when she receives a phone call basically stating that her father is dead, and she has been summoned back to their hometown in North Carolina in order to basically lay his body to rest. In the process of this, a lot of demons are forced to be reckoned with, and we do learn a lot about Georgia's past and why she got pushed away. We also see Georgia meeting Sam Penny, who is Oliver's sponsor for his alcoholic behavior recovery. And Sam and Georgia immediately hit it off. However, the problem is, as Georgia realizes throughout the book, Oliver is also in love with Sam, even though Sam is 100% straight. So now Georgia is dealing with the landmines of falling for someone who her brother is also in love with, while simultaneously not trying to step on any toes and not stir up too much drama while dealing with the traumas of her own past. I will say this book has a lot of trigger warnings. There are questions of course, substance abuse. There is estranged family relationships, rape, all kinds of things that are explored in this book. Jessa Hastings has a way of writing beautiful, beautiful books that do rotate around very heavy topics. It is a closed door book. We don't get too much open door detail as to what's happening in bedrooms and things like that, but we do hear about sex and all this kind of stuff in this book. I just want to say it is very well written. It is a wonderful book. We also learn a lot more about the family dynamics, and essentially the book culminates in the will being read and certain secrets of the family coming out into light, and penance essentially being paid for everything that Oliver and Georgia have gone through in their own right. It is one of those books where there are many aspects of the book that leave you wanting, because there are certain things that are not resolved, which is also true in real life. Like, you don't always get closure on everything, but the book overall ends on a positive note. We really get to see Georgia's growth as well as her relationship with her family members change throughout the course of the book. I loved this book. I think there was so much depth to it. It was very, very interesting. Initially, when I first started reading it, it did feel a little predictable and it was bothering me a little bit, some of the characters, but I did thoroughly end up enjoying this book and really sank into it and loved reading about Georgia Carter, her family, and her history. And all of the micro readings of facial expressions and body language and all that kind of stuff was just like an added character in the book that I just thought added so much flavor and interest in this book. So if that sounds like something you would like, if you like sociology, if you like behavioral studies and things like that, this is a great book from that regard. And it's also great in terms of the storyline and the plot itself. Georgia Carter's growth in this book was absolutely phenomenal, and I absolutely love the story between her and Sam Penny. I ended up giving this book a solid 4 stars. If you guys have made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around and hanging in there. We are finally on the last 10th and final book that I did end up reading this month, and that is The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. This book is set in past and present time, so basically you're getting flashbacks peppered through current times. And in the book, we are following the story of Scarlett Stanton, who is a very, very famous author, and her love interest, Jameson, who was a pilot during World War II. In the course of this book, we are following their love story and learning about it through the flashbacks and letters. We also get to meet our main female character, who is Georgia Stanton, and then we also get to meet our main love interest, Noah. And in the course of their story, we find out that Georgia Stanton has recently gone through a divorce, that she has a terrible relationship with her birth mother and was basically raised by her grandmother. And her mother has essentially been acting as her daughter and is trying to sell off rights to the story of Scarlett and Jameson as a book, and also is interested in selling off the movie rights as well to the ex-husband. And Georgia finds herself in a very uncomfortable position where basically she is put in a position of having to step up and say, hey, I'm actually Georgia, and is forced to work with the author Noah in order to finish their novel and basically come up with an appropriate ending. The fight between Noah and Georgia is basically around the fact that she feels it doesn't make sense for the book to have a happy ending, because that's not what her grandmother actually experienced, and she wants to stay true to the story. She's also very jaded herself and very closed off and has been through a lot of pain in her life. Meanwhile, Noah, who is a celebrated romance author, wants to give them a closure that is befitting of the story, and the two are forced into close proximity, kind of enemies to lovers vibe, where they have to navigate what they want to do with the story. Throughout the course of the book, Georgia and Noah do end up falling in love, and we get to see where that story unfolds and how they navigate the difficulties that they face in the course of the book. We also get to learn more about Jameson and Scarlett and where their story ended up as well. Overall, a lovely novel, very, very sweet, very, very emotional. I think Rebecca Yarros just has a way of doing a love story that's so beautiful. It was her primary focus before she started writing the series Fourth Wing, and the Empyrean series, if you will, which became a rage popular series, obviously, on Book Talk and YouTube and all these other things. But prior to all of that, Rebecca Yarros was a primarily romance novel writer originally. And I will say The Things We Leave Unfinished was absolutely beautiful. Both the story of Scarlett and Jameson and their tale, as well as the story of Georgia Stanton, her resolution with her own mother, dealing with demons of her past, and then finally letting Noah in, and their love story was beautiful to read. It's one of those books that just grips you by the heart. It's very emotional, it's very sweet, it's very loving. But I will also say it's very predictable. It's your typical formulaic romance. So if that's not something you're wanting, then maybe don't pick up this book. But if you're okay with a typical formulaic romance book that is done very, very well, this is a great book for you. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Nicholas Sparks' books as well, if you've read any of those. I think it has that kind of same flavor and feel. Just overall a fun romance book, and very, very warming, heartwarming, if you will, throughout the course of the plot. I ended up giving this book a solid 3.5 stars. And that does bring me to the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this content, definitely let me know. Leave any comments below on your thoughts on any of these books. Are they on your TBRs? Have you read them before? What were your thoughts? What were your favorite summer reads of June? Definitely keep me posted. I love reading those comments and responding to them. So thank you for taking the time. I also want to say for any of you who have taken the time to watch this video, thank you so much. Time is so precious. It's so fleeting and it's so special, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to spend it with me to talk all things books, which is something I truly love and am passionate about. And for those of you that are new here, if you did like this content, definitely consider becoming a part of our family. Hit that like button, hit that subscription button, and that notification bell so you never miss out on future videos. I would love to have you back to talk all things books and to share a little bit of travel and nonsense here and there as well. For those of you that are returning, I would be nowhere without this community supporting me. I cannot thank you enough, each and every one of you, for all of your love, all of your time, all of your comments, all of the hours spent watching these videos. It truly means the world to me. And I just want to say, wherever all of you are in the world, that I hope all of you are safe, loved, secured, and you're getting plenty of time to rest, relax, and read. I'll catch you guys on the flip side with the next video. Bye.